Hello, friends. This is Scott Monty. Stand by for commentary.
Welcome to the Full Monty, where you'll be exposed to commentary and analysis from the week's digital news. You give us 15 minutes, and we'll save you hours. And now, here's your host, Scott Monty.
Hi, and welcome to the Full Monty, an audio companion to the newsletter of the same name. Each week, I pick a couple of more pressing issues and inject insight, opinion, and wit into this 15-minute show that's sure to give you a better sense of what's affecting the industry. Maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but I hope it makes you think. This week, no comment from NPR. And what's Twitter waiting for? NPR, no comment. Last week, NPR announced that as of August 23rd, online comments would be disabled on its articles. The news outlet had allowed comments on its site since 2008, but finally decided that the time had come to eliminate them. With this decision, NPR becomes the latest media outlet to eliminate the comment section. Recode, Reuters, Popular Science, The Week, Mike, The Verge, and USA Today's FTW are just some of the other news organizations that had already paved the way. Back when blogs were pretty much the only way to have a conversation online, outside of discussion forums, of course, the comments section was the way to guarantee you could have your voice heard in addition to the authors. Then news sites opened up comments, and the standard recommendation for brands, particularly during times of crisis, was to offer up a comment at the bottom of an offending news article, so the company's response would be on record. But that has shifted over time, and NPR has finally admitted it. Scott Montgomery, NPR's managing editor of digital news, explained, "We've reached the point where we've realized that there are other, better ways to achieve the same kind of community discussion around the issues we raise in our journalism." It's not that there's a lack of discussion about NPR stories, it's that those discussions are happening elsewhere. Nearly everyone that first discovers a story on social media will comment there, in the social media thread. It's just the way the ecosystem has grown to support comments. If we look at a breakdown of NPR's numbers, there's a fuller story there. For example, more than 5 million people engage with NPR on Twitter each month, compared to just a fraction of that number in the NPR.org comment section. Some of the NPR website statistics. In July, NPR.org recorded nearly 33 million unique users and 491,000 comments. But those comments came from just 19,400 people. That's 0.06% of users who are commenting. And that number has stayed steady throughout 2016. When NPR analyzed the number of people who left at least one comment in both June and July, the numbers showed an even more interesting pattern. Just 4,300 users posted about 145 comments apiece, or 67% of all NPR.org comments for the 2 months. More than half of all comments in May, June, and July combined came from a mere 2,600 users. That's a pretty significant enterprise to keep running for so few users. Numbers like that aren't encouraging conversation. They're squelching it. And that brings us to two valid reasons for shutting down the comment section: economic and human. From a purely economic standpoint, handling comments is an expensive undertaking. NPR cited the New York Times as a news site that uses human moderation to handle its comment sections that appear only on 10% of its news articles. It's inordinately expensive to keep a staff on hand solely for moderation and community building on your own site, particularly when community management is still necessary where more comments are happening in social media. But the thing about social media comments that NPR noticed is that the discussions there tend to be more civil. Which brings us to that second reason for shutting down the website comments, the human element. When third-party commenting and moderation systems are used, there tends to be abuse. Users can make new accounts and even anonymous profiles so they don't have to face the ire of fellow commenters. Social media doesn't allow for such an easy disguise. And the result is the rise of trolls online. If you've ever had the opportunity to check the comment section of a news site, you'll see exactly what I mean. Usually, within 10 minutes or so of the first comment, the thread begins to break down with name-calling, accusations, even threats. A Pew Research Center survey published 2 years ago found that 70% of 18 to 24-year-olds who use the internet had experienced harassment, and 26% of women that age said they'd been stalked online. And harassment doesn't necessarily end online. Some have even spilled over into real-life encounters, and unfortunately, in depression, seclusion, even suicides. Time magazine this week is running a cover story called How Trolls Are Ruining the Internet. According to Joel Stein, quote, "They're turning the web into a cesspool of aggression and violence. What watching them is doing to the rest of us may be even worse," end quote. We've seen bloodlust in crowd mentality since the gladiatorial games of ancient Rome. We witness it every day during this presidential election cycle, and it's unavoidable online. For the NPR brand, the comments just didn't fit the thoughtful and calm tenor of their reporting. As a national media outlet, NPR has the right to curtail hurtful and off-color comments. Perhaps theirs is also a responsibility to the public. By removing comments, NPR is not only saving us from the worst of ourselves, but giving us an opportunity to reflect on the world we impact every day. In the words of Edgar Albert Guest in the poem Myself, "Here in the struggle for fame and wealth, I want to be able to like myself. I don't want to look at myself and know that I am bluff and empty show. I can never hide myself from me. I see what others may never see. I know what others may never know. I never can fool myself, and so, whatever happens, I want to be self-respecting and conscience-free."
Get your trivia skills ready for the Naked Truth.
This week's Naked Truth trivia question. A Michigan couple have filed a lawsuit against a popular game maker. Which game maker and why? Answer at the end of the show. And now, page 2. What's Twitter waiting for? Twitter is in a rut. If you look at the growth of user numbers each quarter, you'll find a relatively flat number, hovering around 310 million monthly active users on a good month. The latest numbers show that Twitter's share of social network users in the United States is dropping, with only 2% year-on-year growth. If you look at the stock price over the last year, it's down over 40%. It continues to be a haven for trolls, yet it's still a dominant source for breaking news. And we know it's Donald Trump's weapon of mass distraction. But no discernible progress on the product and the company's strategy have been made in the last year. A series of top executives from product, media, and communications teams have left over the last 6 months alone. The public, at least the non-Twitter using public, still doesn't understand what Twitter is. And perhaps the issue is that neither does Twitter. We just witnessed what happened to Yahoo after a decade of not being able to effectively define itself. On one day, Twitter seems to be mimicking the elements of Facebook. On another, it's adding stickers to be more like Snapchat. On the next, it's more focused on streaming video deals with major sports franchises and media outlets. To this commentator, at least, Twitter doesn't seem to have any appreciable strategy for digging itself out of these doldrums. If we return to what Jack Dorsey said when he was initially made CEO a year ago, he pledged 3 things, as noted recently in Recode. 1. Ensure a more disciplined execution. 2. Simplify our service to deliver Twitter's value faster. 3. Better communicate our value. Well, let's just focus on the last 2. Simplify the service and improve communication. For all of its brevity in 140 characters, Twitter is immensely complex. The platform seems to be whatever you define it to be. An advertising medium, a research tool, a community, a news feed, a crisis management utility. The simplification, both in the product itself and how we refer to it, has yet to arrive. And the communication function at Twitter, much like the rest of Silicon Valley startups, has been lax and reactive. If I were advising the communications team there, I'd recommend creating a message that supports the company's strategy, assuming it has one, and aggressive storytelling and media relations. The public can't be expected to understand Twitter without Twitter better communicating what it is. A big part of that effort should be more frequent and visible communications from Twitter's CEO, Jack Dorsey. As mentioned in episode 7, the CEO is the communicator-in-chief. But remember, Jack is also the CEO of Square, a job he didn't want to give up when he returned to Twitter to take the same role. Whether or not the markets or others realize it, Twitter is on the cusp of a fight for its life. A half-time CEO with a less-than-urgent approach is not what the company currently needs. If I were on Twitter's board, I'd demand that Jack Dorsey put more than 140 characters worth of effort into figuring out how he's going to solve the aforementioned issues. Because right now, it looks like you don't know, Jack. We asked you about a Michigan couple who were suing a game maker. They filed a class action lawsuit against the creators of Pokemon because of unwanted foot and vehicular traffic around their home, which has resulted in trespassing, they say. Be sure to check out other major stories from the August 22nd edition of the newsletter. How can B2B marketers prove their worth to senior management? More than just generating leads and sales, they can also position their brand against the competition. McKinsey has the CEO Guide to Customer Experience. To improve the customer experience, move from touch points to the journey. Observe, shape, and perform. And finally, increasingly our standard defense against social unease, formerly known as the awkward silence, is not only to make noise, but to stroke our little talismans of talkative silences, our smartphones. We outsource our incidental chat, idly checking email or Facebook or sending texts, hoping that the fleshy aggregation loitering in soft focus beyond the crisp horizon of our smartphone will soon move on. What does silence mean in the age of digital noise. If you like what you heard here, please consider becoming a patron and showing your support at patreon.com/Scott Monty or right here on our site at fullmontyshow.com. And please share this show with anyone you think who would enjoy it. Well, that's it for this week. With any luck, your brain's a bit bigger now. Thank you for making me a part of your week and for being exposed to the Full Monty. Until next time, I'm Scott Monty, and I'll see you on the Internet.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the Full Monty newsletter and this program at fullmontyshow.com.
Gotta sue 'em all.